what we try to do is provide as many opportunities for you to talk to people who are doing what you may want to do at some point in your life, at some point in your careers, right? So we are happy to have with us today Julio Martinez, who is a native of Chicago. Okay. He's a photographer and an editor. He's traveled to other countries, shooting documentaries, one of which is for Grannies on Safari, which airs on PBS. He's also working currently for NBC in their promotions department, where he shoots photos for their outdoor billboard advertisements, and he's been with NBC for 17 years working on special projects in the special projects unit. He's an Emmy-award-winning camera operator, so he's got a lot of information to give to you, to share to you. Please ask him questions, get to know him, shake his hand, network with him. This is why you come here, so that you have the opportunity to meet people, to network with people, to get the access, not just to hear them and hear their stories, but to pick their brain. Okay? So take the opportunity to meet him. He is an Emmy Award-winning cameraman, as I mentioned, graduate of Columbia. We won't hold that against him. But we're very pleased to have him with us. Julio Martinez.
Thank you. So I am supposed to keep this to 15 minutes of what I've done in my experiences. So I started out, like he said, 17 years in the business. 17 years off and on. I'm freelance. I freelance around. I shoot, I edit, I take stills. I know a lot about lighting. I've helped produce stories. So I do a lot of different things, and I've had to learn a lot of different skills. When I was going through college, there was, you only concentrated on certain things, camera or editing, or I want to be a director or whatever on air. But, in our industry, and especially in this town now too, you can't do that. You have to have a lot of different skill sets and be willing to learn a lot of different things and not be afraid of learning and exploring. I just wanted to show you a couple of different samples of my work, if you don't mind. These are some 30-second spots. I worked a couple of years ago. I did help produce the Black History Months at NBC, and I shot, edited, put them all together. And let's start with Herb. Yeah, he's a pretty good guy. This was kind of a fun campaign.
I found out at an early age that I could do radio. Once you find out what it is that you have a talent for, that's what you should go after. You have to get your education. No matter what race you are, when you go to school, there isn't anything that you can't do.
So that was one spot, and then, sure. You know what? Let me see here. Let me see if I can increase the volume here.
I think Chicago still has special energy. When you look at a city like this, it's the only place that's given us 3 African-American senators, President of the United States from Chicago. That energy is still here.
Okay, so these are really quick, different spots that I did that aired.
Where did you shoot the skyline shot?
Down by Lakeshore. I've shot all over the city. Let me show you, this one's a little bit longer, but this is when I was in Peru. And I had to put together a little vignette for Black Atlas, and it was with the Grannies and Safari. And this was one camera. It was just me, two lobs, and I had to kind of direct them, and then I had to bring all the material back and edit it and have it ready. It was for the internet.
Welcome to Peru, a South American country steeped in Inca, African, Spanish, and Chinese cultural history. Lima, the capital, is nestled along the coast and is ancient yet vibrant and modern. Beaches, ruins, and culture, it's all there. The activities and movements of this urban metropolis play out in front of your eyes. We're the Grannies. I'm Pat.
And I'm Regina.
Welcome to Cusco, Peru, on behalf of BlackAtlas.com. The Andes Mountains frame Peru and Cusco, and at 11,600 feet high, is considered the doorway to magnificent Machu Picchu.
Oh my word, this is amazing.
The cloud forest city and home to the Inca Empire. To fully understand the history of the Incas, you have to climb through the city ruins, and we are happy to say we did. From the high altitude of Cusco and Machu Picchu to sea level, and a visit to a district known for its Afro-Peruvian history and music. We're in Chincha, the city of El Carmen, to meet the Familia Balambroso, known as the keepers of the Afro-Peruvian culture. Their ancestors were brought to Peru by colonial traders from West Africa, and they have kept the creative cultural heritage of Africans in Peru since then. We continued our search for more Afro-Peruvian music, and were honored with an interview with the Tina Turner of Peru, Eva Ayllón.
Un periodista en Los Ángeles me siguió durante 2 días.
She told us a reporter followed her for 2 days while she was doing a concert and was amazed she had such stamina. I mean, she could dance and she could sing for 2 hours. And her legs, to him, well, they had a lot of value like Tina Turner. It was fantastic to hear her sing and to listen to her story. Later, she was joined in a jam session with the two brothers, Ronnie and Marco, whose father created the world-famous Afro-Peruvian Peru Negro. So much to see and do in Peru, a country not to be missed. On behalf of BlackAtlas.com, catch you in the air.
So that, well, that's just a couple. I've been to Croatia. I did the Trans-Siberian train ride, which went from Moscow to Beijing. And I was in South Africa twice, Zanzibar. I was caught in the protests in Egypt for the first time, but I was on vacation. I was just there at the wrong place at the wrong time. But you know, I made good use of that because I called in NBC when I was out there, and we called CNN. So we were able to connect to the viewers because that was kind of a local. You know, it was 2 people from Chicago that was stuck out there during the revolution. What else? I started out at CNN in Atlanta. That was my first job. And I started out as an editor, you know, and I cut so much tape. I don't know how many tapes, you know, packages and, you know, short stories and voiceovers I cut. I must have cut about 1,000 of them. But in order for me, because I always wanted to be a photographer, to be behind the camera, in order for me, you know, to be a good camera person, they always had they always wanted the people behind the camera to edit, because when you learn how to edit, when you're doing camera work, you think of how you're gonna tell your story, how you're gonna, you know, have a wide shot, medium shot, close-ups, and how you'll be able to move the story along with that, and or how you're gonna get your way out of a certain situation so you don't have jump cuts, or you know, you don't have a long shot, or you know, so that was a good learning experience for me, and I'm glad I did that. I consider myself an editor first, and a cameraman second, because you know that's how I learned the language of television for me. And then later on, when I became, you know, a camera person, the more I was getting experience with it. What I found really important was listening, listening to the interviews that I was doing, lighting, anticipating what the producers are looking for, the reporters are looking for when they're interviewing something, coming up with my own questions if I thought, you know, some of the questions were not asked. And so basically I started learning how to produce a little bit more and more so that I was able to do some of these other spots. Like the one in India, I pretty much produced that, and the one in Peru, I pretty much produced that. And I did another one in South Africa where, you know, I had the ladies and, you know, we said, well, let's do this, let's go do that, let's do this. And so, you know, all those years of just kind of exploring and asking lots of questions and just observing, you know, I was always like looking at the reporters or the producers to see what, you know, what they were going for. And I was very, you know, I'm inquisitive by nature, so I always try to figure out, you know, what's next, what's going on. I think one of the, you know, the cool things about what I do is, you know, I grew up in a real bad neighborhood on the southwest side, you know, right by Cook County Jail. I don't know if any of you know where that's at. Yeah. I grew up on 26th and Kedzie, and I grew up in a really bad neighborhood, a lot of gangs. I had a lot of friends that were killed. And, you know, to go see, you know, all these different countries, you know, I would have never thought I would have been able to do that. And to see different cultures and, you know, experience the different smells. Like India, you know, India is kind of a crazy place, and Egypt is really crazy, and Africa is really nuts. But it's a good crazy, you know. It's just, you know, a lot of people, when I grew up, never moved out of the neighborhood. They never explored. And I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to get out of there somehow, some way. And, you know, this television, you know, I always wanted to be a storyteller. I always had a camera when I was a kid. Always had a tape recorder. I always knew I wanted to do something with the visual and audio. I just didn't know what it was at the time. And I stuck it out. And it took me a long time, and there were a lot of times when I felt like giving up. And, you know, there were certain little areas in my life that just kept me, you know, just propelled me to go a little bit further. You know, just another professor or another teacher or another break where I got, you know, got another job, and I kept going and I kept going. And I think, if anything, that I want to share with you, all of you, is that, you know, if this is really what you want, and even if this isn't what you really want, you've discovered that later on, that you need to find what you want to do and pursue it, and don't give up on it. And just be persistent and be open to different opportunities. Don't be afraid of not learning something new. In fact, that's kept me employed for a very long time. If, you know, I had to learn everything. You know, how to run a satellite truck, how to edit, how to do sound, how to light. You know, a lot of people don't know how to light, and lighting for me was always fun, and taking stills and saying, yeah, I can do that, and you know, just be willing to learn and explore and to always educate yourself. You know, even when you're done with school,